Okay, well, it is 6:13. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Melody Locke. I'm not the president. But I'm going to sit in, I guess, for Gretchen McDaniel, who is our president. And oh no, we usually start off with somebody reading the mission statement. Thank you.
WIVLA's mission is to provide an inspiring forum for women to explore and advance their creative development, to promote their work in the marketplace, and to infuse the community with their spirit of cooperation and invention.
Thank you. Yay. Hey. So next, we do have a new member here this evening. Shay is how you say your name?
Yes.
Shay Littlejohn. Welcome. We're so glad to see you here. And I believe you joined, was it in April or May? Late April?
I don't even know. I've been moving so fast ever since.
It was recently. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, so hello, everyone. I'm Shay Littlejohn. I moved to Houston. I guess it'll be 2 years in August. I was just thinking, I told you all a minute ago, 1 year. It'll be 2 years in August. So I moved here from Nashville, Tennessee. And in Nashville, that's not my hometown. I'm from Ohio and then lived in Washington, D.C. for many years. And then I moved to Nashville, where I was working. I had a day job, but also I was a singer-songwriter there. And that's what I do. I write songs and I perform. And so as I got my family settled in Houston, I said, oh, gosh, I'm missing the artistic community that I've had back there. And so that's when I started Googling and finding some organizations and figured I would join and get to meet all of you. So yeah, that's my short story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Welcome.
We've got some members that are going to latch on to you. And I believe I did check, you did go ahead and set up your profile in our member directory. And so y'all, if you want to get in touch with Shay and vice versa, you can send her email directly from the member directory. So it's fabulous. Welcome.
Hey. Are you're not a drag queen?
I'm sorry?
You're a drag queen in Nashville?
No, I do not have that talent. I barely even wear high heels because I'm a jeans and t-shirts type of gal.
You know, back in the day, I had a friend who performed in drag, and it was so annoying how good he could look.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could have gotten some makeup tips or hair or something, because he always looked so good. Anyway, I digress.
I just saw the production of The Legend of Georgia McBride at Stages.
Oh.
Fabulous. I recommend it. Highly recommend it. Very entertaining.
I'm excited to start learning all of the venues here and just getting out. And please let me know when you have events. I'll try to come out and support you, see some new art, and I'm excited.
Well, great. Well, at the end of the evening, we all share that information, and this meeting is being recorded, and so there will be a replay as well. And we have a newsletter and a website, a group page. I couldn't think of what it was. So yeah, we will keep you plugged in. And I'm trying to think, I don't see Ellen here. And she has not sent me any information about what's going on with the literary competition. The last I heard, it was in judging, and that's all I know. There will be an event October 6th, but watch your newsletter for more information. I do know that we have a visual event coming up. Ms. Marie, would you like to speak to that?
About our big show?
Our big show, yeah.
So our show will run from September 1st through October 31st, and it's the expansion show. That's our theme. The prospectus will be released soon. Melody just cornered the exhibits director today and had him approve the dates or for an opening. Our opening will be September 9th, which is a Saturday from 4 to 8. And we'll share all of this info with you guys, so you can start planning your art to submit. It will be open not just to WIVLA members, but also to other women artists working in the greater Houston area. So that's a little change from our past exhibits. We have a lot of space, and we thought we'd open it to outsiders, so we can fill up the spaces. So we're really excited. It's going to be a great show, and it will be at the newly renovated Winter Street Studios. So can't wait.
And there will be a discounted price for WIVLA members for the entry fee. And keeping with the theme of expansion, and like she said, I just cornered this guy today. I mean, I literally went down in the lobby because no one answered emails or texts or anything.
I have been emailing him, and so he just needed someone face to face.
And I practically chained myself to the furniture in the lobby. The duration of the show has been expanded.
Oh, wow.
So because the 31st of October is on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we all agreed that just didn't make any sense. So the show will end on Saturday, the following Saturday, which I think is the 4th.
Cool.
So
right.
Expansion.
Very nice.
So yeah, we just have to update a couple little things that we learned from this meeting to the prospectus, and she'll be good to go. So I'd say tomorrow it should be ready, and we will start. You'll be able to access it from our website, and then we'll start sending out emails as well. You will receive many emails about it. And since I'm just going by memory here and I don't have an agenda, I think, Margot, there you are. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you to let you give us some teasers and introduce our speaker for the evening.
Okay, first of all, Shay, I'm going to send you a Facebook request, friend request, because there's lots of stuff, Fringe festivals and all that kind of stuff coming up. So I would love to include you in all of that. Also, while we're talking about drag queens, FYI, we have a local drag queen who got into the finals of the last season of RuPaul's Drag Race, Mistress Isabel Brooks. And so I've been putting a bug in Jean King's ear to see if she might want to take over as program person next year. So, that might be a really great workshop, because there is definitely an art to painting the face for drag. And Mistress, her, I guess her day job is actually, she does something that involves like makeup, and her wigs and makeup are absolutely incredible. Plus it'd be a lot of fun. So she's very, very entertaining. Okay, so
you're saying I need some help, Margot.
What?
So you're saying it looks like I need some help.
I mean,
all of us. We can have a group.
I'm very interested in the way drag queens pull out their inner fierce bitch to get through the world. So for many of these drag queens, drag is what saved their lives. And so it's really a very serious art form. And of course, I mean, they do, they're great. Some, the top of the top are extremely talented. They can do comedy, they can do tragedy, they can do it all. But I'm very interested in what is it that allows you to go in and grab that other, part of yourself and bring it forward. So I got to stop or I'll start crying. Okay.
Okay.
Is that,
Yeah,
this is
please
not the-
send me the request. I'll accept it today. I look forward to hearing more about it.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I put something in the chat to remind everyone to go to the calendar and check out the calendar periodically. So we have a lot of fun stuff coming up. And so next week is going to be really, really full. And I'm very excited about Sunday because Elissa is going to give us our own private afternoon at the Jung Center to check out the bookstore and to check out their show, their art show. We'll have a place to write. So it'll be great for everyone. And then our June meeting will be, I have not met this person, Dee Marie, is it Prokop? I forgot who recommended her, but she is an author of many types of books. She also is a knitter. She's a musician. I mean, she is just extremely talented. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. All right. So our speaker for tonight, I'm really happy to introduce Elissa. I met her at the Jung Center years ago, and I always look forward to going in the door and seeing her there, with her bright face. And we've done some crafts together and projects, and she's just really delightful. I know you're going to enjoy to hear what she has to say. And the thing that kind of interested me in the fairy doors, whatever they're called, one of my former neighbors had a fairy door, and I don't know if he started this website or if he was one of the ones who started it, but I'm sure Elissa will talk about it. But it's a special Facebook page for people who have these fairy, doors and set up at their homes. And it's just a great way for the community to come together. And for children, I mean, it's fantastic. So I'm going to turn it over to Elissa.
Thank you so much, Margot. Thank you. And thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for all the familiar faces I see out there. You're giving me bravery and in this moment, and I'm thankful. I've worked at the Jung Center for over 20 years, and that's where I found out about WIVLA, because we have folks here. There's a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram of the Jung Center and WIVLA, and so it's been a real joy to be able to actually connect with the organization now. I'm such a fan of all of the members that it's pretty much a no-brainer. And I will say, when Margot approached me about presenting, I did go to the website and read that mission statement. And that mission statement made sense to me. That mission statement, absolutely, that's a life I live. And so really wonderful to be here and to be a part of this group. Thank you. So without further ado, let's talk fairy doors. I have a PowerPoint because lots of images. And so I'll fire that up and we'll get started. Bear with me while I stare strangely at the camera while I try to share the right screen here. All right, and we're off. So welcome. Oh, can't figure out what, oh, there we are. So, I was going to save this quote until the end as my blam quote. But I think it's so good that it has to go first. Because this quote really summed up how I feel about imagination and wonder. And wonder and imagination are so much of what starts any project. And they absolutely are a factor when you're working small. So the quote itself comes from a professor of philosophy at Case Western Reserve University in USA, in Cleveland. So in Ohio, shout out to Shay. And it is: wonder and imagination are closely linked. as both involve a capacity to transcend the here and now and to engage with possibilities beyond the immediate present. They enable us to explore different ways of being in the world and to envision new and better futures for ourselves and our communities. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Who doesn't want to participate? During the pandemic, my husband, Mike, who is a writer, came to me with a request, and he said, can we make a fairy door? And I don't know about you, but to have a crafting or making or creative request from any man in my life is fairly significant. I will drop everything and ask a lot of questions and see if I can't oblige. It's easy for me to craft for the ladies in my life. It's often much more difficult to do so with the guys. So when my husband brought this up, thankfully I knew what he meant. What he meant was an urban fairy door. So for those that have not jumped into the world of fairies, they're everywhere, and they need housing and shelter and food and drink just like the rest of us. But so many of the fairy doors that are out there are very sort of Lord of the Rings. They're very nature focused and, made of sticks of wood, and you put them out in your garden, and all of that makes very good sense. But it wasn't what we were looking for. So my husband was born and raised in Southeast Michigan. And so he was from a little town of Plymouth, which is right next door to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And in the mid-90s, an artist named Jonathan Wright started making miniature urban fairy doors of the businesses in downtown Ann Arbor. And they would just magically appear overnight. He was anonymous for years. They had no idea who was doing this. But of course, all the businesses were tickled pink to have this fantastic, tiny little miniature version of their storefront outside. And it draws customers. There's now a map. There's a poster with all of them. When I went to Michigan to visit Mike for the first time back when we were just dating, he one of the very first things he took me to see were the urban fairy doors of Ann Arbor. And so Jonathan has a fantastic website for that catalogs and even archivally catalogs all of the urban fairy doors that he's done in Ann Arbor. He's also a fantastic visual artist, so he does other things for the businesses down in Ann Arbor. But this, the image on the right is just one of his fairy doors. This is one that's actually inside the business. So it's right inside the business's front door, which must be nice because then it's not exposed to the elements, which we've discovered is an issue. And it's also a great example of sort of one of the ways that he discovered the public interacting with his art. And that's, he uses the phrase droppings. And they're the little offerings that people just spontaneously started leaving on the porches of all of these urban fairy doors. And pennies are a regular appearance, but also small beads, wads of chewed up gum. You just never know what you're going to find at an urban fairy door. And Jonathan's great. He goes around and he tends to all the doors, and if anything gets damaged, he fixes it. If a business changes, he'll update the door accordingly. And so it was so I knew when Mike said fairy door, this is what he was talking about. And so our conversation my conversation with Mike very quickly turned to, all right, then what is our fairy door? We're just a house, and it didn't seem very exciting to create an urban fairy door version of our house. And so the world was our oyster. And what we settled on was a private eye. My husband and I both really like film noir and noir literary genre, and when he said a private eye, my creativity immediately was engaged. And so on the left we have one of the very few before pictures that I took, and I will say there's you all know this, but God bless the internet for being a source of information and inspiration. So I went to Pinterest, I went to Instagram, I went to Google, and I searched movie doors from noir movies, like the Maltese Falcon and all of those things, just to get the right visual in my mind before I started collecting the pieces, right? So the door itself is a dollhouse size door. The image on the right is so you get a feel for the size of it versus our front door. So it is 1/12 scale. And it was important to us that we had that open window in the top part of the doorway. And I was able to also order a nice kind of old grimy looking doorknob to go on there. Because of course, for Mike and I, this is, the Sam Spade of private eye fairies. He's older, he's down on his luck. He's been doing this for a long time. So I wanted it to look sort of gritty. So it started with that dollhouse door, and then moved on. We went to, there's a fantastic shop here in town. It's on the 59 Feeder Road and Shepherd. It's called G&G Model Shop. So they do mostly train model, but they have fantastic tiny things. And so Mike and I spent a fantastic afternoon walking around G&G Model Shop, looking for bits. And the bits that we found were, we found an opaque panel that I could put behind the private eye door that gives it a little bit of a pebbly effect. And I also found the transfer letters. And Mike and I, we took one look at that font and went, that looks right for private eye. Okay. And then otherwise, I painted the background to the door. I wanted it to look like there was a light on in the office. But I'm not a painter, so we kept it simple. And needless to say, when I put it outside, when Mike and Mike watched me throughout the process of making it, of course. And we were admiring it from inside the house. But once I had it in place, I mean, we were like kids on Christmas. It was just the coolest thing we could imagine putting on the outside of our house. And it made us so happy. And not all projects make you happy, right? You're not thrilled with the result every time. This was one straight thrill with the result. And so, of course, when we deployed it and put it out, I wanted to put a post up on Facebook. I'm one of those people that posts their crafts and what they're working on and what they're doing on Facebook. But I gave the honors to my husband. And so he posted the first picture on Facebook, the one you see in the middle, with the following caption. Now, bear in mind that my husband is a writer and he is fun. So the attached description on my husband's Facebook page was the following. I was in my office, catching up on my wool gathering and foot dangling when I saw it. The note slipped under the door, was terse and neatly typed. It was also the size of a postage stamp. It read, I just moved in. I doubt we'll run into one another very often, but I'll try to keep it quiet. See you around. And that was our introduction to the world for our urban fairy door. Now, what I did was I took that post and I replicated it on the Facebook group that is for our neighborhood. I wanted the neighborhood to know that this was here and it wasn't scary and they were welcome to come and see it. Of course, I almost immediately got a question of, which house is this on? Which I pointedly did not answer. And, just said, it's visible from the street, you'll find it. And sure enough, nobody's asked since. So people are clearly figuring it out. What we discovered very quickly was that neighborhood kids had found our door and they were charmed by the fairy door in a very different way than Mike and I were charmed by this urban fairy door. So on the left, you see a letter. This was the first letter that we got from Dawson and Sela. They live down the street from us. I've never met them in person. I've never met their parents in person. But boy, howdy, do I know about them and their family now. And so they were the first people to interact with our fairy. And thankfully, their mom translated the note, letting us know that the drawing was of a fairy. And so what I noticed immediately was, well, that's not the fairy I was imagining behind our urban fairy door. But guess what? That doesn't matter. And so the note on the right is from my goddaughter Pearl, when she and her parents came over to our house for the first time since we had deployed the urban fairy door. She immediately had to leave a note. Thankfully, her mother carries a paper and crayons in her purse, as you do. And Pearl left this right at the doorstep of the urban fairy, which made my day. So what the kids don't know is that the urban fairy writes back. Now, I don't feel comfortable sharing people's personal correspondence, but what I will say in this environment is that I've discovered that a font size of 8 is very tiny and still readable. Because again, for Mike and I, we imagine that the urban fairy behind that door is sitting at his old wooden heavy desk, using his old IBM Selectric typewriter, obviously for the fairy set. And that's how he corresponds. And as a crafter and a sewer and someone that has just made various and sundry things over the course of my life, I've accumulated a nice selection of bits and bobs. And so each of these letters comes with a treat. And so you can see we have return replies with some little elephant and star charms on them. On the right was a little bit of a longer letter that also came with a wide assortment of very colorful beads. And everyone should just have a stash of tiny clothespins. I recommend it. They come in handy in all sorts of ways. I had originally bought tiny black clothespins for a paper doll project I was working on for my mom. My mom had entrusted me with her childhood paper dolls that I turned into a diorama for her. But you know, when you buy tiny clothespins, you have to buy 100. I only needed 5 for the paper dolls. What am I going to do with 95 tiny black clothespins? I'm figuring it out, rest assured. I still have a few left. And so the kids in the neighborhood, they don't just leave pennies or other things. They frequently leave flower bouquets. Be still my beating heart. And I know for a fact that those are weeds that may have come out of my very front yard, which is only a step away. But of course, in a child's eye, they see a flower, and a tiny flower at that, which might be just the right size for an urban fairy. And so thankfully, we check the urban fairy door frequently. It is right outside our front door. So none of these things go unseen. What I love is the notes you see on the right were from Valentine's Day. And what the neighborhood kids have started doing is they take their notes and they fold them into as small a package as they possibly can, and then tape them rigorously around the outside and leave it like a package on the urban fairy door's front door, which takes a while for the adult-sized human beings to unwrap, but we get there. But I love it. They thought, well, maybe I should make this note small so that, you know, he can get it in the door. Mike and I have discovered the fun of decorating your urban fairy door for the seasons. I think I decorate the urban fairy door more than I decorate my front door. For whatever reason, it brings me more joy. Go figure. So as you do, we happen to have a tiny mop and bucket, again, dollhouse size, that was given to me as a gift from my boss. We had an event here at the Jung Center. It was one of our big fundraiser events. And literally, as folks are coming in, the men's bathroom started overflowing. And so a few of us brave staff members kicked our shoes off, grabbed some mops, and just quietly hopped to work at the back of the building. We set up some wine tables as a distraction, which always works. But yeah, we're furiously mopping for a while there. And so our boss got us all miniature mops as a thank you gift. And again, at the time, you think, what am I going to do with a tiny mop and bucket? Oh, wait, I found just the use. So our ferry door is outside, it is exposed to the elements. I knew it would be. And so, I did my best to shellac it and make sure it was fairly protected, but it does get dirty. It does need cleaning. It does occasionally need a repair job. I do all those things very quickly so that it can get back out in place. But this was one of those moments where I had just cleaned it off, and it is really fun to create bubbles in a tiny bucket. Those are real soap bubbles. And I just had a ball with that. And that's really what cracked it open for decorating for the holidays. So the middle picture is my next door neighbor who was moving. She was cleaning out her house and getting rid of things that she didn't want to move cross country. And she wanted to give some art supplies to the kids down the street. But she came to our house and said, I want them to be from the ferry. And I said, Sandy, I can take care of that for you. And so this was around last Easter, and I bundled them up and sent a message off to our Facebook neighborhood group, which is how I let my neighbors know that they have correspondence from the Urban Ferry. And I let them know, I said, there was a lot of noise overnight, apparently a lot of heavy lifting to get all of these out of the office and onto the curb. But you have a gift from the Urban Ferry. And let me tell you, the kids, I mean, I can hear them. I'm sitting inside my house and I can hear them running down the street to the house. I can hear them outside the front door. And it's wonderful. Like you'd think I'd feel weird for being like the lady inside looking out the peephole staring at small children. But they're having an experience. They're having a magical experience. And I get to be a fly on the wall. And so you can also see in that picture with the markers and the pencils that the kids brought pennies. So we have quite a penny collection happening on our ferry door. We did have one of those magical winters. Okay, maybe not so magical. There was a lot of snow and there was not a lot of electricity and water. But when God sends you a winter storm and your husband is born and raised in Michigan, there will be a snowman. And so Mike took the opportunity, thank God, to run outside and make a snowman for our Urban Ferry. Again, the correspondence just keeps coming. They're always drawing ferries. It's always crayon on construction paper, and sometimes it's a torn piece of construction paper. But these kids understand that connection between wonder and imagination in a way that as adults, we often have to remind ourselves. And so it's just always the best possible sort of check-in moment for me around wonder when I get that kind of correspondence. For Halloween this year, we discovered major breakthrough that the top of a Pez dispenser, just the right size for holiday decor for your Urban Ferry door. And the good news is I popped that little pumpkin off the top of a Pez dispenser. And when we were done, I popped it right back on. So the Pez dispenser was unharmed in the making of this craft. Of course, when I put the pumpkin out there and saw how fantastic it was, I ran inside and said to Mike, this really cracks things wide open. So next year for Halloween, I could pop the head off of a Pez dispenser, and then I could paint it and make it look really gross and decapitated. And then I could put it on a little pike and we could park it next to the ferry door. And my husband goes, honey, wait. Small children visit our ferry door. Please don't traumatize any small children. And I said, all right, fine. I'll let it go this once, but I'm still percolating on that project and I'm going to find a way to make it work. Just you wait. And then at Christmas, we had, you can't go wrong with a tiny bottle brush tree. They make everything feel cheery. In my family, we do Christmas crackers as a group, and you get a terrible pun, you get a fantastic tissue crown, and you inevitably get a tiny toy. And so I collect up whatever tiny toys people don't want, and they go into my stash. And so a Christmas celebration to the kids down the street, they got a tiny little noisemaker, which I sent to them because it was going to their house, not mine. Thankfully, I didn't hear from the parents that was a terrible idea. So, and then on the right was one of our latest messages. Apparently, the kids in the neighborhood have discovered sidewalk chalk, and frequently our entire street has a mural / epic something from end to end, all of it in sidewalk chalk. They go up onto our driveway, which of course we adore. And we got a very special sidewalk chalk message to the ferry. And I thought, geez, those kids are good. They don't leave anybody out. So most recently, and this is just a beautiful moment of full circle. And so my husband and I were leaving the house to go out to brunch on Easter. And as I do, I look over at the ferry door and I said, wait, we have an Easter egg. So put the car in park, everybody get out. And so sure enough, it was a cascaron and full of confetti. And so that gave me exactly the right opportunity to then create the result. What happens, of course, when you crack open a cascaron, there is confetti everywhere and bits of eggshell. And so you can also see very vividly in these pictures how our ferry door has aged over the last 2 years. Of course, for Mike and I, we love it. We love that it's getting grimier and grittier and a little down on its luck. At some point, I will think about a replacement, but I think this one's still got some good life in it. And I just continue to keep it tidy, and every once in a while do some repairs, and it's hanging in there just fine. I did when I posted on our Facebook neighborhood page with the Easter egg. I had commented that we heard some very tiny banging on the other side of the door, and we just assumed at that point that the urban ferry would figure out what was going to happen. And sure enough, the next morning, confetti on the porch. We've all been there. So the good thing about doing things like this is the people in your life discover that you love tiny things, and they send you gifts that are, I don't even have the words for how magical this is. On the left, you see a dollhouse size version of the bookstore and library at the Jung Center. My mom commissioned this from a friend of hers. The artist is in Dallas. She's not a professional. She's an amateur. She also paints ukuleles and makes quilts. And she sounds like a fabulous human being that I've not had the joy of meeting yet. But she creates these miniature dioramas. And so my mother contacted my boss and had him surreptitiously come into the bookstore and take photos so that she could send them to her friend, so that she could be, as accurate as you can be in this sort of format. And it's not perfect, but those of us that have been in this space, I think we recognize elements of the bookstore and library. And you're all invited to the tour that we're doing on Sunday, where I will have this miniature in the bookstore. So if anybody comes, they can see it, they can touch it, they can play with it, and enjoy. And then on the right is a dollhouse size version of Sam Spade's office from the Maltese Falcon. It was made by my husband's best friend for his birthday last year. And it is exact. It is tiny and it is exact. And so many of the components that you see, including the tiny Maltese Falcon on the corner of the desk, were created by hand. you know, like you can't, I mean, I guess you could buy a tiny Maltese Falcon if you worked at it hard enough. But he had to create all of that by hand. The fedora that's hanging on the hat rack in the background to the left, created by hand. And there's a tiny phone on the desk. There's a tiny clock on the desk. There's a tiny inkwell with pens. It is truly, truly, it's a labor of love. And it was made for someone, they knew the recipient would love it. So needless to say, places of pride and honor in our house. And then just to further explore working in the small, I do lots of other things. I'm sort of like a crafting magpie. My mom was a Girl Scout troop leader. And so every week there was a new craft or something fun to learn. So that's the house I grew up in, where you look at something and go, that's really cool. And then you go, could I make that? And here we are. And so on the left, my hand for scale is a tiny felt pirate. That was requested by a friend for her birthday. I was more than happy to oblige. I did put a pin on the back so it can be worn as a brooch, which I love. And of that project, the hardest thing to find was the tiny hook. I don't know why, but it's like I had a vision in my mind, and the hooks I was finding certainly just weren't doing it. So for whatever reason, it took me a long time to find that tiny hook, but find it I did. On the right, as promised, here's where I work in my giant orange cat. Always good. My mom and I have a love of English cottages. And so I regularly make tiny English cottages for my mom. This was one of them. And she had given me the green felt that you see, that's the roof of the cottage. She had brought to me from New Zealand, and it's very thick felt. And so when I started this project, I took one look at that green felt and I went, well, that looks like a thatch roof. And sure enough, that's where it started. And so, you know, all crafts must be inspected by the cats, as you do. I don't have scale on these, but I can tell you, these are more gifts that I made. On the left, we have some presents. My cousin gave birth to twin boys, and they also had an older boy, and the older boy is obsessed with dinosaurs. And so I made these dinosaurs are all maybe 5 or 6 inches from tip to tail. And they were really great fun. The T-Rex was for Jamie, the older brother, who's the crazy dinosaur fan. And the Brontosaurus and Stegosaurus were for the twins. And then on the right are Christmas ornaments. I don't know about your Christmas tree, but my Christmas tree now includes a tiny Yeti and a tiny Sasquatch. And I made these for our family members. We had Betty the Yeti and Harry the Sasquatch, and I think they're about 2 inches tall. That's miniature rickrack as the ornament loop, if that helps anyone in scale. But I made probably 20 of these, and just there is nothing quite like sewing tiny teeth onto Yetis and Sasquatches during the month of December. It puts me in the mood. For my, we have 3 godchildren, 2 boys and 1 girl. And so one year for Christmas, everyone got personalized superheroes made by me. And they have detachable capes. And it was all made with scraps from my fabric bin. In a really fun twist, my parents were visiting when I was making these, and so I was showing Mom my progress, and she was tickled pink. And I said, Mom, I could actually use your help. I said, I need to put these rickrack belts onto, or these grosgrain ribbon belts onto my superheroes, and I'm not real comfortable doing it. She says, oh, just give it to me. I said, oh, great. Here you go, Mom. I set her up with a sewing kit and plenty of grosgrain ribbon, and she finished off the craft for me, which is just, to have a moment to just sit and make something with your mom when she's the one that showed you how to do this in the first place. That's fantastic. And on the right, if we're going to have a cute cat, we might as well have a cute child. This is my goddaughter, Pearl, a number of years ago, but she is holding all things that I have made for her. And so tiny, tucked behind her arm, there is a teeny tiny brown sloth that I had embroidered for her before she was born. And so that's where it started, and it continues. And I get it. She doesn't love everything I make for her. Thankfully, her mom does. So anything that Pearl doesn't like, her mom, who's my best friend, is more than happy to take to add to her collection. But just recently, Christmas was coming around, and Pearl asked her mom and said, "Aunt Duty," my name, "Aunt Duty is making something for me, right?" And Jen said, "Rest easy. I don't know, but I can safely answer yes. Aunt Duty is making something for you." So I'll keep doing it. It is also really fun to make things for the adults in your life and not just my mom. So on the left is a teeny tiny fox portrait that's it's about 6 inches from top to bottom, that I made for my best friend, the mother of beautiful child Pearl. And I made that for Jen. She'd given me the book that this pattern appears in as a birthday gift. And she was genius enough to have flagged in that book that she gave to me her favorite projects. And I said, perfect. And so I knew what she wanted, and I knew how to make it personal just for her. And it still hangs in her home to this day, which again just sort of blows my mind. On the right is the stuffed animal version of Hobbes from the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. We didn't often see Hobbes as a stuffed animal, but there are a number of references in the comics. Myself, my husband, and my brother-in-law, crazy, ridiculous, off-the-chart fans of Calvin and Hobbes. And so my husband asked one time if I could perhaps make a Hobbes doll for his brother for his birthday. So I figured it out and found a pattern, got to work. Now you can tell he's a little bit taller. I think Hobbes, from where he's sitting there, he's about 12, maybe 15 inches tall. We took him, and again, inspired by the comic, when we find out how Calvin found Hobbes, he had trapped him. He made a tuna fish sandwich and put it in a trap with a rope over a tree in their backyard. And when he came out the next morning, Hobbes was trapped. And so I took a picture of Hobbes hanging from our crepe myrtle in the front with a tuna fish sandwich, luring him in. And we sent it off to my brother-in-law. He was at the time celebrating his 56th birthday, if I remember correctly. And we packaged Hobbes in a brown paper bag that I crunched over and scrawled with my left hand, "Do not open, danger." And that night on Tim's birthday, when we called to wish him a happy birthday, he cried. And boy, the opportunities to make a 56-year-old man cry and cry in a good way I wasn't necessarily prepared for that, but it made sense the minute it happened. Tim passed away a few years ago. And when my husband and I went up to Michigan to manage his estate, when he had passed away, there were a handful of things that Mike and I decided to bring home and return back with us. And my husband brought home a pair of 3D glasses that Tim had used, and a few other things as well. And I brought home Hobbes. And so Hobbes now lives at our house. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, if I am experiencing a higher level of stress or anxiety or depression, my creative urge disappears. Now, I've been through this enough times to know that it will come back, thank goodness. But it's always a little disturbing when the creative urge leaves us. And I'm not quite sure what to do with that in the moment. What I've discovered is that knitting a teeny tiny scarf is quite often enough. And so at the Jung Center, and this was maybe 10, 15 years ago, I'm not making any of this story up, I promise. I went out the back door, and on our back porch were these two statues. They're roughly 15 to 8, they were roughly 15 to 18 inches tall, so not scale. But they were sitting on our back porch. And of course, all of my staff members came to me for answers, which tells you something about me. And I didn't have any. I said, look, I didn't put them there. They just showed up. I don't know where they came from. I don't know who they belong to. We're just going to leave them out there for now. Okay. And that seemed to mollify the staff. So I went home and I started knitting. And because look, they're naked. I mean, they're naked. And so there is great joy and a wonderful sense of accomplishment in knitting a teeny tiny scarf. I've knitted many teeny tiny scarves since then. Every Christmas, I feel an urge to put teeny tiny scarves on all of our Christmas decorations, and my husband talks me down off the cliff. But what I have discovered is that when I am struggling in my creativity, making something small is a balm for me. Generally, making something small happens quickly from start to finish, not always, but generally. And so you get that wonderful sense of a finished project. You get the wonder that comes with something teeny tiny. And then if you're lucky, you get to deploy it into the world and watch it bring joy to others. And so when I finished these scarves, I quietly put them on the statues in the back, on the back porch. At which point my colleagues came to me again and said, scarves had appeared. And I probably confessed at that point to having done the scarves myself. The statues sat on the back porch for about another week, and then one day they disappeared. And so I don't know where they went. I trust that they have a fabulous new home somewhere. I don't know if it was the original owners who dropped them off and came to retrieve them with a little extra clothing included. But that's my kind of mystery. So the following quote from Jung gets used in lots of ways, but it gets used in lots of ways because it's good. I work at the Jung Center, and so I'm biased. So the following quote from the Swiss psychologist, Carl Jung: "What did you do as a child that make the hours pass like minutes? Therein lies the key to your earthly pursuits." And not all of us get to do that thing for a living. I manage a bookstore and library in the Jung Center, and that brings me immense meaning. But for me, the things that make the hours pass like minutes are working with my hands and creating. And that is mighty. Hi, you just met me. Here I am again. What's important here is my contact info, which eventually you'll be able to find on the WIVLA site as well. But really, if anybody has questions about the resources I used or would like more information, I'm only a phone call or an email away. You're also welcome to come down to the Jung Center and see me here in my native state.
Thank you so much. I will be running down there on Sunday. If you want to unshare your desktop,
Done.
and I'll take the spotlight
Thank
off
you,
of
Joe.
you so you don't. Okay.
Thank you.
Fabulous. I just a couple of things I'd like to mention. There is somebody here who wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, who would probably be interested in helping you with the Halloween decorations.
Oh,
Where did she? There she is, Ellen. Ellen Seaton, wave again at Ellen, is all things Halloween. Ellen, how many more days till Halloween?
I have it on Facebook somewhere, but we're more than
Okay.
halfway through the year.
Okay.
It's
okay.
Halloween.
I'm
Yes.
disappointed. I thought you'd always have this at your fingertips. And, and I gotta say, we have seen those glimpses of Hobbs through the years. Every once in a while, when the parent walks in the room, he becomes that little stuffed toy. And that was so spot on. It was perfect. And I just have one question. Is it too late to become one of your godchildren?
never
I
too
mean,
late.
How lucky, are those kids? I mean, you're just the perfect godmother.
Well, and I have to make something for them because as a bookstore manager and librarian, they always get books, always. But I also remember being a kid and you open it up and you're like, great, another book, so I always managed to include a little something else.
And skeletons can be friendly.
Oh, for
Very
sure.
friendly, of course.
Lots of Day of the Dead stuff happening at our house, for sure.
I remember Casper was a friendly ghost, right? Yeah, and I'm so pleasantly pleased that nothing has happened to that door.
You and me both. When I put it out there, Mike and I did have an initial sort of conversation around, should we be concerned? What if it gets stolen? What if it, whatever. And we just decided to take the leap, and we knew that it would be awesome. And we knew that we wanted to share that. And it's great. I tell you, there was one moment where I was doing yard work. And I was, I take the path of least resistance with yard work. So at a certain point, I'm generally sitting on the front porch with a big pile of branches and crap in front of me that I'm cutting down to put into the recycling bag, right? So I'm sitting on the front porch and I'm wearing my yard clothes, which are not cute. And I'm kind of a mess, and I've got a pile of branches and a garbage bag next to me, and one of my neighbors comes walking by with her daughter, and they come up the driveway, and I'm prepared to be like, hi, how can I help you? And the mother says, we heard there was a fairy door around here, and literally I'm in the way. And I'm like, oh God, okay, hold on, give me a second. Like, pull myself away. It's right there. And then also when we first deployed it, my mom said, well, so if the neighbors ask you about the fairy door, like or if the kids, if they want to know the fairy's name, or like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know the fairy, Mom. I haven't met him. I said, the kids are on the same plane as we are, as far as any details about the fairy. And that's a lie I am fully prepared to dedicate myself to. I'm never letting that one go.
I grew up as a kid reading all the books, The Borrowers.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of that too, especially,
Yes.
like the head of the Pez dispenser becoming something that's just so borrowerish, I guess is the word.
It is now.
Yeah. I don't know if I can spell it.
Yeah, it is. We were looking, Mike and I, we were making a concerted effort looking for an appropriate Halloween decoration. And it's like, neither one of us could find just the right thing. But sure enough, I collect Pez dispensers. And so for every holiday, there's a roster of holidays Pez dispensers that get lined up on our entertainment center. Mike's walking by, he glances over and goes, well, what about that? Sure. And it's perfect.
Well, Elissa, I hope you will do this presentation again.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's so heartfelt, and it brings so much, I mean, I just feel like you brought me so much joy. And, yeah, don't let this be the only time you do it. You need to be sharing this. Yeah.
Sean's trying to convince me to do it here, but I haven't agreed to that yet. That's
Do it.
that's a different magnitude, but I'll work on it, Margot. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Good
You know,
suggestion.
Elissa, you had so much joy talking about this and sharing it that it just really made me happy.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate it. It's such a little thing and it's just enormous in its potential to make people happy. So thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. You get it. Thank you. Thank you. And again, this has just been a real treat for me. This is not something that I normally do. And so being able to do this in a setting where I feel supported and I feel safe was important to me. So thank you so much, ladies, for providing that.
We're glad we could be the first of many presentations.
Melissa,
Oh,
I
yeah.
echo Sean. I think this needs to be done at the Jung Center. I think this, I am enchanted with your presentation. I believe everyone else here is as well. And yeah, I think you really tapped into something that is very human in all of us, which is wonder. And your ability to take us to that doorway and lead us through. Yeah, thank you so very much. It's an honor and a privilege to see it.
No, thank you, Gabrielle.
And I can't tell you the last time I heard someone say, boy, howdy. What a gift. I'm going to have to start working that into my vocabulary. Boy, howdy.
I don't even
One of my
remember
favorite
saying, boy,
sayings.
howdy, but I say that. So yeah,
I
guilty.
love it. I love it.
Well, that was fabulous.
Oh, Cindy, thank you. So Cindy just parked in the chat that she wants to go on a ferry door tour. And that reminds me, as Margot had pointed out at the top of the presentation, there's a Facebook group called Tiny Houses in the Heights.
Oh,
Are you in there?
I'm in the Heights.
So again, this was somebody in the Heights that created the group, and it's all for Heights. I mean, I think the map probably also extends a fair bit outside the Heights, but he's created and maintains a map of anybody that joins the group and says, "Hi, I'm new to the group. Here's where I live. Here's where my ferry door is," and he maintains that map. So that information is out there. And yeah, just carry around pennies. Oh, and just to cover my bases, for those that are maybe a little freaked out by fairies, they're not all Tinkerbell. Fairies can be good and bad, just like the rest of us. Don't ever take food from a fairy. And if you're feeling vulnerable, lead is apparently what keeps the fairies at bay. So just in case, not everybody loves them, you know.
Helpful tips.
You know, Elissa, are you in the oak forest? Isn't there one in oak forest?
Oh yeah, there's
like the fairy. I forget the name of it, but it's an oak forest, which is not that far from the Heights.
I'm going to consult Facebook right now and find out the actual name of that group.
I know I'm part of the group, but I don't really have a
right?
word.
You'd think I'd remember. Here we are.
What's it?
Bear with me, I'm making progress.
Okay.
So it's called Little Houses in the Forest. So you're right, Margot. It is centered around Oak Forest, right next door to the Heights.
Yeah.
But yeah, the group is on Facebook and it's called Little Houses in the Forest.
So that's in addition to the Heights one, or
No, that's the one I was thinking of.
That's the way. Okay. Okay.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't know if there were like two, but some of the posts I've seen, it's just incredible. They have like the little ferry door, and then sometimes they'll have like a little lake in front of the house, and you know.
Oh, and we are also plotting, we are currently the next ferry door in the production line at our house is for friends of ours in Michigan. Friends of ours that live in Ann Arbor, so are of course very well versed with the urban ferry door. And they have quite a few ferry doors around and in their house. But the husband was a writing partner of my husband back when they were just out of college and very young and very ambitious. And one of the things they wrote was a musical called Dooley's Deli. And so in our friend's living room, they have a picture of a hand drawing of the exterior of Dooley's Deli that someone had made them as a gift. And we'd been to visit them last year, and sure enough, in very hushed tones in the guest room, my husband goes, "Do you think we could make an urban fairy door of Dooley's Deli?" And I went, "I think we could." And so we text their son. We're like, "All right, Dan, the next time you're over at your parents' house, we need you to take a picture of the Dooley Deli drawing that's above the piano and to the left. Like, and you have to be cool about it. You have to be surreptitious. This is a present down the road. Don't blow it for us." And he came through. So I have the inspiration images. I'm just looking for the right bits and pieces.
Well, Elissa, it snows in Ann Arbor. So are these ferry doors mainly indoors and versus outdoors? Like,
the vast majority of them are outdoors. And, again, I think he uses a lot of oil paints, like the guy, the artist in Ann Arbor, Jonathan Wright. He's serious, and he's a fine craftsman. I mean, they have little, they'll have little balconies, and often they'll have an interior aspect. So if he gets permission from the business owner, then he can continue to create a room behind that door. But yeah, he goes around regularly and checks on them and is constantly doing repairs, and exposure to the elements is a legit issue. But it's not a deal breaker.
any doors?
I don't know. There is one in a library. So it might be in the campus library at U of M. But I'm not sure.
Road trip.
Yeah.
This sounds
Southeastern
fun.
Michigan is a beautiful place. I recommend it, but not in February.
No, but it's lovely in the summer.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions or comments for Elissa?
I do.
Okay, Gladys?
Yeah. Is it better to, I don't know, are there more so let me say, is it better to have the urban ferry doors, of course this may be a crazy question, on the outside, or just kind of maybe just have it more, maybe during a particular time or season and outside as an event, or an inside event? What is the best time to have an urban ferry door?
I think yes. All of those
Yes, I don't.
are the best time. So for us, when we were talking about placement, so it was when we finished the door, because my husband was like, "No, I need to see it when it's finished, and then we'll talk about where it looks right." Okay, all right. So we went outside and we held it up in a number of places, and we did give very serious consideration to putting the urban ferry door up under our porch cover. Where it would be a wee bit more protected, but we decided not to because we wanted it to be more visible.
Okay.
We really wanted it to be visible from the street, and it just made more sense to have it just off the porch. But lots of people have them inside their house and out. I love the idea of a seasonal urban ferry door. I'm
Okay.
going to percolate on that one.
Okay, great.
You've sparked something there.
Okay, great. Okay.
I think
An
June-
urban ferry.
June, you're muted.
Oh, I am?
No, not
No,
you.
not you, Gladys.
Oh.
You're the other June.
Oh,
Here we go. Okay. This sounds like a perfect activity for WIVLA, don't you think? Should everybody make a fairy door?
A good
and come
activity
together?
for Wivla and good music during our holiday party with music and a fairy door starting at 2 o'clock.
Oh,
And
God.
not
Okay, so now that Gladys has got it planned. Okay.
Perfect, ladies.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun? That'd be a kick.
I think it'd be a kick. I think it'd be a kick. I mean,
We'll have
I'd be
to-
there.
we'll have to
put
percolate
it in
on this.
action.
We have a new member here in Elissa that can, kind of get it organized.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You ladies know where to find me now. It's official.
Yeah, we're gonna start heading out looking for the fairy door in front of your house.
Absolutely.
Before we start sharing all of what's going on with each other, Ellen, I just kind of wasn't even able to punt on the literary activities that are going on. I just said, Ellen's not here and stuff's happening. And so yeah.
Well, all the writers are writing, of course. That is going on. And we don't have, the journey into art, people who are gonna put in stories for that, they've done it, and so it's all in the judge's hands now, and who knows what's going on with that. We'll find out in October. What we have up in November, we will have our member writing meeting, and with a topic to be determined, unless Melody, you know something I don't, but the topic is to be determined.
I might know something, but not the
Oh,
topic.
you know what? Can I interject something? We had talked about the topic of door.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Some
That
people liked it, but I mean, you can, we can get with you,
Okay.
Ellen. I mean, she's the final, the final say.
final grand poobah on
I was gonna say that, but somehow Poobet, I don't know. But-
And we, of course, every year we have our haunted holidays, and
Yes.
that will be in November of this year. And so you're working on a story and you have a snippet of something scary you can share with us, or if you just want to write a scary story, and it can be a scary story that would go along with the fairy door that you're decorating for Halloween. Just saying, because it could be Halloween or Thanksgiving, or it's haunted holidays, so it's all the holidays, it's all of them. So what we have coming up, and as soon as I get a theme officially nailed down for the November member meeting, I will let everybody know. Keep writing.
And I can't listen to the moth anymore without thinking about Margot and Boo, that from last Haunted Holidays readings.
Oh,
Boo.
Yes.
You'll have to find the video and watch it. It's on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
wow.
See, I remember all these stories y'all tell. Okay, so who's got something going on? Shows. Okay, Joe.
Readings.
I have a piece, speaking earlier about the big show. I had a piece in the big show about 3 years ago called Ascending the Wall, and it's a plexiglass box full of ceramic bones. And I've done a new iteration of this piece, and it is now showing at the Irving Arts Center, which is kind of the northwest part of Dallas. And it runs through the month of June into July. So I'm very proud of this. Again, like I said, an iteration, which I tend to do. I constantly rework pieces. And so anybody going to Irving, Irving Arts Center. Texas Sculpture Group. It's Texas.
Oh,
Sculpture.
wonderful, wonderful.
Great.
And at the Jung Center, when does it open, Alyssa? The Visions show, which is the membership show.
Opens on Saturday.
Yeah, my Wivla piece with Jerry Pfister and Beatrice Stewart called Face to Face is hopefully going to be in the exhibition at the Young Center. She says, of course.
I can confirm that.
It's a fabulous piece. It's a fabulous.
But that's going to be at the Young Center opening this weekend? Yeah.
Yeah, the first day
That's good.
visible to the public is on Saturday. It's a show we do every summer. That's the work of members of our community. The opening reception is on Saturday, June 3rd from 5 to 7. Our gallery is always free and open to the public. And of course, you're all welcome to join me here on Sunday.
And I think, Margot, didn't we want people to sign up to go Sunday?
I mean, yeah, it's nice to sign up,
We
so we know.
No, right.
So we have an idea of how many people. Yeah, just I put the link to our calendar so you can sign up there. And I was going to say we have our monthly reading at Archway Gallery this Thursday night. We gather at 6 and start reading at 6:15. I mean, we've got a very full roster, but we'd love to see you, come out and bring a snack or a beverage.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got
Yes.
something. I've got the Houston launch of my new poetry collection, Fairy Tale, is going to launch at the Jung Center on June 17th at 4 p.m. And you all are all invited. And thank you to Alyssa who helped facilitate that.
And in that book is one of the poems that you read last year at Haunted Holidays.
Red Seance was one of the books. I mean, was one of the poems. Yeah. And also the Willis, the poem about the Willis.
Also on that video that you can find on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's correct.
I think you had a fabulous dress on, if I recall.
Thank you. And you had a beautiful fascinator on. I remember that.
Yeah, Melody, your hat was okay. So
Fashion.
I think it was a spider webby kind of thing, or a witch's hat. Let's see, I've got a couple pieces in the Bloom show at the Artist Gallery in Magnolia, and coincidentally, my two pieces are lumen images of magnolia blooms in Magnolia. It just, kind of goes together. And it doesn't open till next month, but I got in the big show. So I was very excited. It's old stuff for Jo. I mean, she's been in it before, but it was new for me. Very exciting.
Always exciting. Yeah.
So I encourage you as members, when you log into our website, you can click on the calendar and you can add an event as a member. It shows up in gold, like we're color coded, right? So it shows up as a gold event. That means it's a member event. It's not a Wivla event, but this is a way that you can share information. You can also go to our Facebook group and post it there. And I also encourage you to email a newsletter at wivla.org and share it there. There is so much going on here, especially all these things that are going to be happening in June. I mean, the main newsletter is out, but anything that's starting in June and lapping over into July, share it, put the news out there. We want
I
to
have something to share.
share.
I will have 3 works from my latest series, the Renaissance series, at the Project Row Houses Community Gallery. The show opens May 27th and goes through August 6th.
All right.
And I'm actually delivering the pieces tomorrow, so I'll find more about it. Opening reception or, whatever's going on in hours of operations, I'll share that. So
Good.
anyway, this is really cool. I've always been a big fan of Project Row Houses.
Well, please put
And now
that.
I get to be in one of their shows, so that's cool.
That's awesome. That's great. Thank you. And Cindy, you're on mute, but as soon as you unmute yourself.
It's so unlike me to be mute. I wanted to share that Perry and I are going to be in the Vibe Artisan Market on Saturday, June 10th, which is down at the Post. So if you haven't been to the Post yet, it's a good excuse to go down. The food is amazing. The rooftop is fabulous. That's actually where my office is now. So I don't remember what the hours are, but it's the Vibe Artisan Markets. So
Once again, Facebook.
Could you put that in the
yes,
chat?
I wrote down all the things I'm supposed to do.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, you can put
there's
that
a
in the
list of
chat.
things,
Put that in the chat.
assignments for everyone here.
Yes,
Okay. Because we are busy
busy.
creative people. And, I said earlier, I saw a few of you in my building partaking of PhotoFest cyanotype workshops. So Corey and Janet, the closing reception for that is this Saturday between 11 and 5. So you can come and pick up your artwork and wave as you walk by my studio. Okay. Any other information to share before we close for this evening?
Oh, if anyone is in the Lake Charles area, Saturday, I have 3 video poems in the, I can't pronounce it, Calcaso, whatever, short film festival. So, yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Gosh,
Yay.
yes. Elissa, it was a fabulous presentation. My mouth was tired of smiling.
Oh,
I just smiled the entire time. Thank you for the joy that you shared with us. It was really a lot of fun, and we were glad that we were the launching pad for this new series of presentations that you will be giving.
thank you. Well, the mission accomplished. Thank you.
It was great. And with that, ladies, have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to seeing you out and about in all these great places that we're going to be in the next month. And see you back here next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.